Hey there, everybody. Welcome back if you've been here before. Thanks for clicking on the video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. And yeah, I hope everyone's doing well today. I'm doing pretty good myself. I finally had therapy today after 3 weeks. It's the longest I've went in like 4 years. So it was getting rough towards the end there. So I'm in a much better mood than I have been, so that's great. And now we're going to get into some 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. Season 6, Episode 10, Sex Lives and Videotape is a good title for the show. I want to start this off by pointing out that this show is rated TV 14, which I think means it's suitable for people who are 14. And I don't believe that. It should be rated R. And in some cases, we're pushing it. That being said, I'm going to get into it with Jasmine and Gino. So we start off with Gino. He's talking about how, they're trying to improve their relationship. And it's going really well. He even got her a promise ring. And she really liked it. Who ever heard of a promise ring when you're already engaged? I thought the engagement ring is the promise. But, Jasmine likes to be spoiled. So, either way, he wants to keep that momentum going. And we find out they're going for a weekend getaway to Western Panama. It's a chance to just have fun and relax and enjoy each other. But, of course, they're running a little behind, and hopefully they make it to the airport for their flight. Gino's saying, it was his fault because he was up off and on all night. Apparently he had some nachos that didn't agree with him. And, Jasmine's like, I warned you not to do it. She says they're too cheesy and the beans are for real men. Whatever that means. So, then he decides to go into detail about that, and basically we find out he ate all the bean dip in Panama, and it was not smart, but it was delicious. So, despite his gastrointestinal issues, Jasmine hopes the trip goes well. The place they're going is famous for its mountains and beautiful landscape, and even better, it's close to the place where Gino proposed to her. Did he propose to her in the rain? Maybe that was Jenny and Summit. I thought it was raining when he proposed too. Doesn't matter, she said yes. So, they head off on their romantic getaway. She's telling Gino she's gonna put, a lot of effort into this trip, and he's like, yeah, same with, me. I'm going to put all this effort in. She's asking him, about his stomach. He says, it's a little better, but maybe she can give him a foot massage tonight. And we all know that Jasmine is more than eager to massage his entire body if he would like. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. And she agrees. She would love to. So, they get to the, resort, Airbnb, wherever they're staying, and he's saying he's going to put in, extra effort so they have a good night. We skip ahead about 20 minutes later. They're, in robes, and they're having wine, and she thinks he looks good, but she's after whatever he has going on under the robe. I hope he keeps the robe on. So, at this point, she excuses herself because she has something to show Gino. And she's just hoping and praying that she gets a positive reaction right now. She comes in some, thigh high, I think they looked velvet, maroon boots and a towel. She tells him, I'm a present, you gotta unwrap me. So they get the towel off. She's in this sexy pink, lingerie number. And Gino's like, wow. I get all of this, and then we get to see what she has in the bag. And I just have this suspicion that I'm not going to want to see it. First off, he pulls out some handcuffs. And another thing that will help Jasmine finally just keep her mouth shut for once. And whips, We got to see them test out these products. Why we got to see them test these out is beyond me. Because hearing Gino try to be dominant and tell Jasmine that she's a bad girl in his little baby, uncomfortable, anxious voice was something I'm going to hear in my nightmares 5 years from now. It was too much. But it was just enough for Jasmine because it worked. She feels beautiful and desired. And, maybe that's her thing. Maybe she is a brat and likes to be submissive. And she's always arguing with men, so they will punish her in this way. She probably should have told Gino that sooner. Fast forwarding to the next day. They're happy. They're all smiles. First thing Jasmine says is, she's so happy because Gino finally crossed the finish line for the first time with her. So she never thought it was going to happen. She just thought it was only possible for him to do that alone. She also says they did some other things, and basically she was like the puppy and he was the fire hydrant. That's how she described it. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's disgusting to hear about it. I don't care what people do on their own time in their extracurricular activities. But please don't tell me that. Some people watch this show with their mom while they're having dinner. Nobody wants to hear this when they're eating spaghetti. Nobody. So, she loved it. She enjoyed showering him, and it was a romantic experience, if that's what you want to call it. Now they're going to take a break from all that loving and go horseback riding. This is her first time, and she wants to make good memories with her fiance. It's also Gino's first time horseback riding. He says last night was exciting and he he felt so in control. So today he's just feeling sexy and strong and like a big man up on that horse. Hopefully that turns her on. And, she always seems to want it, so I don't think he has to do much. They are riding the horses. He's not a tour guide. He's the guy who, teaches them to ride the horse, keeps them safe. The horse guide, they're, marching around on the horse, trotting, riding the horse. There's a guava tree. They stop. They pick some fruit. And for some reason, we have to get a close-up shot of Gino chewing and spitting it out. Why? We couldn't get a farther back shot. It had to be the GoPro camera. Their whole segment, this episode specifically, was too much for me. So she tells him that he's the only one she wants these memories with and how she loves him. Apparently this one therapy session they went to just did them wonders. They stopped, they're taking pictures, and he's like, send me those pictures so I can send them to my family. And she gets her Jasmine, sour, sucking lemon face, and is like, oh, your family, your family. So she sends them, and she's like, okay, don't take this wrong. I'm sure she's afraid to argue after she finally got what she needed. But she says, once she's there, she doesn't want his family to be too involved because she feels like they don't like her. And she, brings up again about the cousin saying something rude to her on social media, asking if she really loves Gino. He probably was being rude, but I don't think that's too abnormal to ask someone's family when you're dating them. But, she's defensive because it appears like she uses him for money to everybody. So anyway, Gino's like, look, don't generalize my entire family because of one person and one comment. You know, give them a chance. You haven't even met them. And she's like, well, you need to tell them I don't take criticism lightly. Like, okay, so nobody criticized Jasmine, or she can act like a toddler, and that's okay. Just whatever you do, don't tell her something is wrong with her. Like, everybody has something to work on. Jasmine. So, you know, Gino suggests that they should talk to clear the air. And he's like, you know, would you agree to this video call? And she will. And Gino's happy because he doesn't want to be in the middle, but he's also worried because he's going to be in the middle. Either way. Jasmine is hard to win over, especially when she already doesn't like these people. So she might just blow up on them. And that's her plan, because she's like, if he says any little thing wrong, I'm going to react. So, yay. At least we can look forward to that next week. Get off this one note about their sex life and their arguing and their jealousy. And I guess we could see an argument with his family. Change of pace. Speaking of people who are brats, I want to talk about Amanda and Razvan. He's a little sad that they've spent most of this week arguing, and, you know, he just really wants this to work. He's like, he wants to start from zero tonight, so he's going to take her to a traditional restaurant. So, traditional, is it Romanian? And, you know, he's just hoping for a nice, fun, chill night. And hoping for the best. He tells her all the dishes are in Romanian, and she's like, how can I read anything? And he tells her, like, well, he can help her, and starts explaining the dishes. Like, duh, lady. He can read it. They're his traditional, you know, meals from his culture. If anything, I would say, like, well, what do you suggest? You grew up eating these things. What do you think I would like? Because even if you don't like it, you're trying stuff from his culture. But as we remember, her trip to the grocery store, she lives off of, like, ice chips and air. Because she can't eat anything. She doesn't like anything. I don't know why she even cares that she can't read the menu, because she's going to complain about every item on it. So he's explaining, he makes her laugh, like the way he's describing the dishes. We find out some are made with snake, some are sheep, some are whole rooster. You could buy a whole rooster. Even pork brain. You know, and he said the funny names of the dishes, and he had her laughing. It's the first time I've seen her laugh in ages. And he's telling her, you know, this is very traditional food. Like, what if my mom cooked pork brain? And she said she would politely decline. And for once, I have to agree with her, because I don't think I could do it. I know a lot of people do, and I know it's not bad or gross. I'm a very picky eater. I don't even like peppers or onions. I won't eat mayo. So pig brain, you know, a little much for me too. But, you know, all you can do is politely decline. You don't have to eat it. So she is in her interview. She says they're getting to know each other more deeply. There have been, like, challenges, but he just has such a sweet side to him, and he makes her laugh. He's saying that his family lives in Croatia. You know, that's where his father works. So his parents and his brother live there. And he wants her to meet his family. He thinks they're going to like her because she has a good heart. And he's also afraid because she can be difficult sometimes. She is always difficult. There is not a sometimes. And he doesn't want her to be difficult like that to his parents. They didn't like his ex-wife, and that just made the relationship hard. You know, he's asking her, how does she feel meeting his parents? And she's like, well, how'd they get along with your ex-wife? And he says, not well. And she's like, so, if they like me, I'm better than your ex-wife. And he's like, well, yeah. And she's like, well, what if they don't like me? And he's like, of course they'll like you. You're Christian and you have a good soul and you love me. He says that the mom felt like the ex-wife was too controlling. And then he says his mom isn't going to like the fact that he will want to move to America, but they always knew he wanted to move to America even without meeting Amanda. And she's like, wait, you always wanted to move there? And he's like, yeah, it's a childhood dream. He thinks that he told her this before, and she says he certainly did not, because it would have, came out as a giant red flag to her. And she thinks it's strange. And, he's like, I'm not only with you because I want to go to America. She's the reason. And, he could have went to America whenever he wanted. He could have found a woman to use years ago. Not only that, he just applied for a visa to come visit her without being married to anybody. So where he lives, I'm guessing he can get a tourist visa to America. So he didn't need her for that. Especially not her specifically. So I don't see why she's so upset. And not only that, a lot of people grow up dreaming of coming to America. There's even a movie called Coming to America. No. But, they romanticize the idea, I'm sure. And it's just a dream for a lot of people. It's not that abnormal. But she's like, look at it from my side. I have to be cautious because it's not just my heart on the line. It's me and my kids. She talks about caring a lot about what's best for her kids, and I'm sure she does. But most people agree that you shouldn't have left them for 3 weeks to meet this man. And she wasn't even ready to date. They should all be in like some kind of family counseling or trying to build up their bond together as a family. And I know that's easy for me to say and have my opinion on like what she should do. And I've never been in that situation. But clearly this woman has not grieved a day. Like, let herself feel the loss of her husband and rebuild her and her kids' lives. Until she does that, a man can't just come in and fix it, because you guys are the foundation, so you need to fix that. But she's always using that as an excuse. She has to worry about them and what's good for them. And I don't feel like she's always been doing that, at least from what we see. So she's also saying, it's important that she knows that he wants to be with her and move there out of love. He's in his interview and he's like, when you lose trust in a relationship, you have nothing. And she feels like, he feels like she doesn't trust him. And I mean, that can be true, but you need to build the trust. I mean, you don't just trust someone after being with them in person for a week as much as you would like to. Trust takes like time and effort and actions. Actions meaning words and seeing you can lean on someone. All that kind of stuff. But her not trusting him, he's insecure. He invested his feelings in someone and, all she does is find reasons to argue. I'm telling you, this woman, every time we see them, it's like in the morning when they're getting their coffee and brushing their teeth. Miserable. She is miserable. Can you imagine her getting her kids ready for school? Oh my gosh. Like, you got to try to be pleasant. If you're not going to be pleasant in the morning, be pleasant in the evening. Something. And Razvan's not sure what Amanda wants at this point. And neither is she. And speaking of, like, she's not pleasant to be around in the morning or the evening, later we see them and Amanda is saying, last night after dinner, they went home and they didn't talk about nothing. And they said that before. After, like, the visa conversation, they just went home and didn't talk. Like, what do they do at night? Because, you know, these couples have a lot going on when they're not filming. But I believe that they didn't talk. Like, I'm sure she went home and laid down and gave him the cold shoulder. Silent treatment, whatever it is. So we find out that Amanda is still processing finding out that Razvan wanted to come to America his whole life. And, you know, he was keeping that from her. And she knows he's guarded, but she needs to be careful of her decision, you know, not just for her, but for her kids. Razvan starts off saying he was thinking about last night and he doesn't have bad intentions with her and he loves her. He asks if she trusts him and he doesn't care about America and she just says okay. This poor guy, and you know, he probably has his mistakes and flaws and things he's messed up on this show, but he has been so kind to her and caring and accepting and just putting up with her nonsense this whole time. And she's just been a brick wall, and I feel so bad for him. So in her interview, she says the more time she spends with him, the more concerns that she has. But, you know, she just knows he's a good person with a good heart, and she wants it to work. They both have good hearts, apparently. He tells her his friend Deanna invited them to a pool party. And, you know, she's going to be there with other friends. And he's like, you know, it might be nice to meet people. He's probably thinking, and get out of this apartment, you know, where we just keep arguing back and forth about everything. So he feels like she still doesn't trust him, but the pool's going to be a good reset and she can meet his good friend. This poor man wakes up every day hoping for a reset. And he also thinks that this friend Deanna can make Amanda relax more about him. So 2 hours later, they arrive at the pool party. Here comes his friend in a very small swimsuit. She's happy. She tells Amanda she looks beautiful. And she's like, yeah, so do you. But she's like clearly uncomfortable how she's dressed. And the way they edited it, her face was like, she was repulsed or something like, oh, what are you wearing? And, you know, I'm pretty sure, I don't know. Oh, geez. I'm not a geography major, but I think Romania is somewhere in Europe. And they wear like smaller bathing suits there, I believe. And they wear these in America. So it's not that shocking. And the woman had a wrap, and it's her pool party. Like, she didn't have a wrap, but she had like a fishnet robe. Like, she's not there trying to get Razvan with her outfit. So Amanda's like, yeah, I'm really nervous to meet his friends, especially a female one she never heard of and is wearing a thong bikini, because that doesn't help. Because, you know, she's insecure. And I understand that, especially if you've never heard of the friend and you show up and she's beautiful and you're intimidated. But if they wanted to be together, they probably would be. And she's important to him. So you need to, you know, lighten up. They have a seat. Deanna's like, hey, do you want to go change? And she's like, no, I don't have my swimsuit. And she's like, you didn't tell her this is a pool party? And then he's like, well, she's on her period. And Amanda's face. And she's like, why would you tell everybody that? And it's like, okay, I get that you're like put on the spot. And he's like, well, it's true. She doesn't know why he just announced it to the whole party. And she's just embarrassed. But like, every woman has had a period and every woman deals with it. And I'm pretty sure all of us have skipped swimming a time or two because of it. So if she just would have like whispered it to her herself. And she doesn't have to tell her business. But I'm saying this woman would have understand. And she did. She's like, oh, okay, you're not swimming. Shark Week. Gotcha. So Deanna asks him what they've been doing. And he says, you know, they've been in town. And they're going to meet his parents in a few days. Then we find out the parents don't speak English. And she's like, yeah, I'm just worried Razvan won't translate what I'm saying properly and leave things out. And the friend is like, look at her eyes. She's like a cat. Rawr. Or meow. Rawr. Something like that. And then she just, she's trying to be nice. So she's like, do you like Romania? She's like, yeah, I'm just not used to it. I don't live in a city. I live in a small town. And Razvan's like, but she's getting used to it. And he seems happy. You know how Misha was so like, Nikola's not happy to introduce me to people and he's not proud of me. Razvan is opposite. He's like engaged in the conversation. He's trying to like present as a couple with her. I just feel so sorry for him. So he says, she's getting used to it. And she's like, am I? And he's like, well, yeah, you told me. The friend is looking at her like, okay, I'm done with this attitude. And she's like, oh, do you want to come over here and talk alone? She asks, how it's working, if they fight. She's like, they have some fights, but they just met. She's like, well, when you just meet someone, you don't like fight with them a whole lot usually. She asks, do you love him or are you just attached to him? She says she loves him, and if she didn't, she wouldn't leave her kids. She's like, you look at Razvan like, you want to hurt him. Like, if looks could kill. She says, toxic people look at each other like that. Amanda's taken back by this. She doesn't think they're toxic. They love each other a lot, and she's like, you love each other a lot in 6 days. That's hard to understand. And then, Amanda goes for she thinks Deanna has a crush on him, and that's why. And originally, I thought they were like old hookup buddies or friends with benefits, in like the episodes before. But after seeing this, I feel she just genuinely cares about her friend. And these are all normal questions that anybody would ask, meeting their friend's partner. And I was so happy that she called her out for glaring at him like that. So, Deanna thinks it's not love and that they're just attached. That's where we kind of ended off this week with them. And, next week, I think maybe we'll finish the pool party. I saw a preview with, Razvan crying, so that's great. Like, he is so nice to her. And I don't think she's dealt with enough asshole men to appreciate just how nice he's being. Because a lot of men who do not care about your feelings. Okay, I'm getting off. I just had therapy. We're not talking about the men today. Not today. I just could not keep going that way because I was going to dig myself a hole with the men. And I know there are like wonderful men out there. I've found a couple. But I'm just saying not everybody would cater to her the way that Razvan did. Moving on from that, let's talk about Statler and Dempsey. So, Statler's setting up to take her first cold shower. She says, the last couple days things are going really well. She feels seen and accepted, and that feeling is just heavenly to her. She does still want to talk to Dempsey about, possibly moving in, but she's still worried about this living situation. She said, since being there, she hasn't bathed or had a shower because she's nervous to take a cold shower. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that either, but I'm a shower every day kind of person. Like, can't they heat up water or, fill up a basin, take a sponge bath? So, she's saying it's freezing cold outside and she's not excited to be freezing and all wet. Dempsey's like, good cold showers are good for you. And Statler's like, yeah, that's easy for you to say in the warmth of the kitchen. But, she takes the plunge. She gets in there. She's screaming. You can tell it's super cold. And she's just wondering how long a person could go without bathing, because this just isn't it for her. And that, kind of grossed me out. I don't think they've been, too physical the whole time since that first night, but I could see why not. Nobody's washing. I'm sure Dempsey does. She's used to it. So, moving on, we're talking about how she's going to go see her dad, and she's like, if I can get through the shower, I can get through anything. Reusing Dempsey's line from earlier, throwing it right back at her. And Dempsey's like, exactly, that's what I was trying to say. Apparently, it's going to be fine once Dempsey preps Statler to meet him. She's, glad to meet her dad, but she's still really anxious. She hasn't told him that it's her girlfriend. Statler doesn't really know what Dempsey has told him. Dempsey tells her about, how he got along really well with her last ex. And then things started happening in the relationship between them, and he just didn't like her after that. So it's definitely a huge deal to her that her dad likes Statler, because if he doesn't like her, she's gonna reconsider being with her. And Statler is like, yikes. I mean, anybody would feel like yikes after hearing that. She says her last relationship was just so toxic, and she wanted to get to know Statler better before telling her dad, which is fair. She, doesn't want her dad to worry about her because he worries about his daughters. We find out they're off to Saltburn by the sea. They're going to have some proper good English grub. And Dempsey's asking Statler if she's ever been to the seaside. And she's like, yeah, and then starts naming every beach in London. And Dempsey's like, wow, that's a lot of places. She probably hasn't even been to all those beaches. And in this moment is when I realized that they're talking about things Statler did with her ex. And, Dempsey's like, do you feel like you have the same connection with her that you do with me? And she says no. Dempsey just feels like her other half, and no one else has ever felt like that, so it's not a comparison. And then Statler's like, to be in love. And Dempsey's like, are you in love? And she kind of, they skirt around it. And she's like, wow, that's a biggie before meeting my dad. Dempsey knows that Statler was trying to imply something without saying it. But she left it alone because they haven't said I love you yet. She does feel a massive connection, but she doesn't know what to say. And she's thinking about all of Statler's past relationships that have failed because she moves too fast and, she gets ahead of herself. And, wait till she finds out that she wants to move in. I can't believe we're this many episodes in and she still doesn't know. So Dempsey's worried that she's going to be a little full on in front of her dad and he's not going to support the relationship. And the girls arrive. They're both nervous. Statler wants to vomit. I mean, she usually does, I think. She says, she's about to meet her dad and he doesn't know they're girlfriends. So in, perfect awkward Statler fashion, she gives the dad a hug and she's like, oh, you smell great. You just smell great. And he's like, okay. So they all have a seat. Dempsey is blushing and laughing already. There's no way the dad doesn't know what's up. And she's like, oh, how's your coffee? And he's like, forget the coffee. Tell me about this lady. She finally spits it out. And he's like, well, for how long? You're just telling me this. She says they've been talking for 7 months. And she just starts telling him the deal about the distance and stuff. Statler starts anxious explaining how they met and everything. And then they make sure to let the dad know that she's awkward. He's like, okay, well, let's get some fish and chips. And he tells her it's tradition and asks if she had them yet since she's been in England. And she says, not this time. She could have just said no. But she tells him, she's been there before. Dempsey's like, yeah, she has a thing for English girls. And this is her second time here to meet one. So then we get a dad interview, and he's saying, Dempsey told him that they were talking, but he wasn't aware of the relationship. And just, her last relationship wasn't good and ended badly. And he's protective. So, what Dempsey said checks out. Dempsey goes off to fetch the fish and chips and leaves them alone. Immediately, the dad wants to know about her previous relationship with the British girl. She tells him, they talked for a couple months before she came to visit. And then Statler wanted to move there, and she thought it was too fast and ended things. Why does this sound familiar, right? He's like, so, do you have any plans on diving in head first here? And she's like, well, yeah, my lease is up soon, so I'm considering moving here and in with her, but, she doesn't know that. They both agree that it's fast, and he just, doesn't want Dempsey to get hurt anymore. Now, why would you tell the dad that you just met and he just found out you're the girlfriend, that you want to move in with her before you even tell her? I don't understand. And maybe that was a little self-sabotage move. Not sure. But here comes Dempsey back just in time with the food. I was expecting the dad to tell Dempsey what Statler had said. But he didn't. The dad thinks she's nice, but his alarm bells are ringing because she just wants to move here, and, that's a shock. He doesn't want them to rush things. They need to slow down. Statler leaves to go pee, and it's time for Daddy to lay the truth on Dempsey, right? Dempsey tells him how much she values his opinion, and he's like, look, she's a nice girl, but maybe she's a bit all on straight away. That's what he said. She's all in too fast. He tells her that she needs to step back, don't get pushed into anything, don't rush decisions. This hits Dempsey because she knows Statler has a problem with this, and she needs to step back and make sure she's in this for the right reasons, not just because she wants love, but because she loves Dempsey and wants Dempsey. So, next time we see them, it's Valentine's Day morning. Statler comes in with, oil to massage her feet so she could do something nice for Dempsey before she goes to work. Statler thinks it went well with her dad yesterday. She was nervous, but he was really cool in person. And she's like, yeah, I'm glad you think it went well. And she's like, yeah, that was the best first meeting with parents I've ever had. In the interview, Dempsey says, she thinks her dad likes Statler, but he feels like she's moving fast, and that does concern her too. And also, Statler has an ex in the UK, and that worries her, and she just agrees with her dad that things need to go slower. And how awesome is it to see somebody get advice from their friends and family about these relationships and actually take it in. That was new. It was refreshing. Statler, she's on a whole different page. So let's hear about that. She's usually single on Valentine's Day, so she's excited to have a girlfriend for it. She calls herself a hopeless romantic, and she gets to use some of that hopeless romantic energy today. After the meeting with Dempsey's dad, she snuck off to get Valentine's stuff. The producer asks her what she's doing. She's going to do a romantic scavenger hunt. First of all, How did Dempsey not see her buy all of this? There was like bouquets of roses. There's no way she didn't see her buy all this. And second, I just now thought about how many people they must have in this caravan squeezed together trying to film. And that made me laugh. So Statler didn't expect to fall in love so soon. And the next step is talking about when she can move in. Or, if she can move in. Like, talk about being on different pages, right? Statler is thinking they're on the same page, though. She does say that yesterday she kind of told her that she loved her, and she didn't say it back. So she's not sure if it was because she was stressed about meeting her dad. But she does feel she needs to tell her more properly and not in word vomit form. She's anxious, she's insecure. Last time, she did this, the girl said it was too fast and ended it. So if Dempsey does that, it's going to hurt a lot more. And I'm just thinking, like, how about changing your behavior? Like, obviously you're doing something that isn't working. Take a look inward. It's not, these girls aren't bad for denying you to just move in with them after a couple weeks. So, Statler thinks it's worth the gamble, and all she's waiting to hear is that she loves her and she wants to move in. And I am definitely waiting for next Sunday to find out how that goes, because yikes. All right, let's keep moving. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk about Tyree. And all I can say is, wow, here we are again. I honestly almost forgot about Tyree, so let's see how he's doing. What do you know? Tyree's packing. We find out that it's been over a month since he met with the PI, and he found out that he was being catfished by a man named Christian. He kind of like told the story wrong there, because the producers told him that way before the PI did. But, whatever. So, he's still really embarrassed about what happened, and, having to tell his family, and he just loved the person. And that's what really hurt. Apparently, this whole time, he's never stopped messaging the fake Carmela. But they're still ghosting him. He can't stop thinking about how that person told him that they love him. He just thinks if he was able to confront them in some way, it would give him the closure he needs to move on. Then he, brings up the story that the PI said that it's possible that the scammer is working with the real Carmela. So, he reached out to her, and what do you know? She did get back to him. He let her know about the catfishing and someone using her photos to catfish people. And, her getting back to him was a relief to him, because he just felt like he was getting somewhere. So first he was going to go to Barbados, but the real Carmela is willing to meet up with him. Turns out she lives in Denver, or outside of Denver. So, he's telling his mama that she doesn't have to worry about him. He's bringing his sisters with him. And he just doesn't know what to expect. He didn't get much from her through text. And he's just not sure she doesn't have anything to do with this. But, he feels like meeting her in person, he could find out more about the situation. Which, this man said that he watched Catfish. That never once happened where they're like, yeah, I was working with the person who stole my photos. Maybe if they were like best friends. I can't say it never happened. But it wasn't like a whole catfishing scammer ring or anything. So, the mom is nervous. But he says this is why, he's being open about it now. And this just might be the thing that gives him closure. She's worried his heart's going to get broken again. He's, saying he's not going there to fall in love. But the mom is like, you just might. He was in love with her and her pretty face first. So she's worried that he's going to try to fill his broken heart with this woman, and, there's no telling what she's going to take from him. So then his sister shows up, and they're off on their adventure. He does realize he's in a vulnerable place, and seeing the face of the person that he would say was his first love, he is worried he'll transfer the love from the old Carmela to the new one. But this is his last chance option to get closure, so he's going to do that. I feel like he's probably hoping she's going to fall for him, and, even though he was talking a bunch of crap about her profession and the stuff she does and how he wouldn't date someone like that, I think he's hoping that she would date someone like him. So then the next we see of Tyree, he's in Denver. He's getting ready to meet the real Carmela. It's a big deal for him. He's curious to find out if she knows anything or can help him find Christian. And of course not. I'm sure she wants to be on the show, and the producers got a hold of her. And, this will probably be good for her and her platform and all of that. But, we soon find out the real reason he's here is he's excited to meet the real girl in person that he thought he was talking to for 4 years. If he feels like he's catching feelings, he needs to remind himself why he's here. He pretty much thinks that the real Carmela thinks he's a loser because of what happened, and he's just embarrassed, and, he thinks she feels bad for him, and this is kind of like a pity thing. But he's already talking her up, saying if she isn't involved in the scam, then she's just a really good person because she didn't have to do this. She didn't have to meet him. So then this guy says, just in case, he went with his sisters to buy her a thank you gift. Like, what? A thank you gift? They show him and his sisters in the store, and he immediately wants to go for jewelry. And the sister's like, for what? And he's like, a thank you. And they're like, no one's buying it. You can get her a candle. The gift is to show gratitude. But at the same time, he doesn't want her to think that he's a creep. The sisters get there to his room, and they're talking about, their feelings. He's nervous to see if she's connected to this. And, they're going to meet at a lounge. Apparently the sisters aren't going with on the meeting, which I don't understand why, but it's probably because he wants to make a love connection. The sisters came with all this way just for moral support. Help him buy gifts, I guess. The sister said, she could be a catfish behind the catfish. You don't even know that this is the real Carmela. And I think he needs to be worried about that too. For someone who just got all of this happen to him, and, he went through 4 years of being catfish, he's pretty trusting, right? His sisters, they're worried about his feelings because seeing her, that's the face that he's in love with. He's on his way. He's really trying to turn this into the airport moment that he never had. He has butterflies. And I honestly don't believe that he thinks that she is involved or has any information. I think he just wants to meet her. He gets to the lounge. He's sitting at the bar waiting. It's taking forever. It appears he might be ghosted. The door opens. Cue the dramatic music. And that's the end. We got to wait till next week to see the real Carmela. So, yeah. Why they're dragging out this storyline, I have no idea. But I'm slightly curious just to see what she has to say. Even though I'm almost, I would say 95% sure that she has no information besides, yeah, lots of people steal my photos and use them to scam people. She probably knows about this. So, all right, the next couple we didn't get too much on, and that's all right by me. Misha and Nicola. We're starting off with the couple. They're hanging out in Tarzan's bedroom. She's telling Nicola she's off to get some coffee. When she gets there, there isn't any coffee, barely, and she's too late. The early bird gets the coffee, as they say. So she just got like a little tiny Dixie cup and had like a shot of coffee. She's reflecting and telling us, last night was the biggest fight her and Nicola ever had. They aren't communicating like they had been the last 7 years. And it just seems like he gives no F's about her feelings. She's not sure what to do. It's just scary and really sad for her. She had to leave the room to get away from all that negative energy. And she's trying to be hopeful that this relationship is in some way salvageable. But as of now, she has no hope. So here comes Nicola strolling over with his shot of coffee. And he's like, you said you were gonna get coffee, but you didn't come back. And he's like, yeah. How many people out there think this man just came downstairs because she didn't return with his coffee and he was wondering where the heck his coffee was? That's gotta be it. He wasn't worried about her. He's like, she said she was bringing me coffee. Where's the coffee, woman? So she's like, yeah, there was a lot said last night. They had a lot of bad feelings and, she went to bed not sad but confused on what to do. And he's like, okay, well, what do you want me to do, Misha? I'll fix the problem, whatever she wants, he'll do it. She's like, do you even know the problem? And he thinks that she doesn't like how he behaves, and he wants to work on it because he loves her. Apparently, he woke up this morning, and Jesus came to him in the night because he realized that he needs to start to change his ways for her and try to be more affectionate and whatnot. She's happy that he came down here with a different tone from last night, but she's still afraid he doesn't care how she feels. She doesn't even think he listens to her. And the only reason that she's still tolerating it, besides the show and being on TV, is because she knows the guy she's been talking to for 7 years. And she's not sure if this guy she's been seeing this last week or however long she's been there, or this person she's been talking to on the phone is the real him. And you need to go with the person that you are seeing in front of you, because a lot gets lost in translation over text. Like, I could tell someone like, yeah, I hope you have a good day. And they'll read it like, hope you have a good day. Like, it all depends. And she filled in a lot of this blanks in her head with romantic ideas. And so what she's seeing is real, and she needs to trust that. I mean, as real as the show gets, right? He asks her for forgiveness and says, he needs to be more sweet and gentle to her. And then he starts telling her all of the things he loves about her, beautiful, kind, good heart. I honestly didn't list them all because he's just so full of crap that it doesn't need to be repeated. He finally came up with a list of things he likes about her. And he asked her to be more patient with him. She likes that he was more tender, and she likes this, but, she doesn't look convinced. I'm not convinced. They both agree God's going to do what's best for them here. She says that him saying all these things he loves about her brought them back to center. But, he needs to use the rest of this time to show her some actions. And he says he won't give up. Church bells start ringing, so he must be telling the truth. As if he doesn't know the exact moment every church bell in the city rings. He set that up. Even when he's being nice, I can't stand him. I think it's just a little too late. Like, it came off very, fakey. I'm just going to say what I have to. Hopefully I'm wrong and he realizes what he messed up on and he can give her some kind of real effort. But she needs to know that what she's seeing is the real him, because, like I just said, we fill in blanks all the time. We read things how we want to read them all the time. And that's what she did for 7 years. She was probably afraid to date and venture out there. And I'm sure when they talked, mostly they prayed and talked about God and her church and his church. I mean, he doesn't even like cats. She has a cat. They're doomed right there. So yeah, that was them. I could take or leave it. I don't know what was the point in this, but at least we got a little recap there. It seems that I always end up saving this couple for last or close to it because I have the most strong opinions about them, and sometimes I get angry, and it's hard to get angry about a couple and then go off and talk about, someone being a fire hydrant. So we're going to end with Christian and Cleo. Cleo is having tea with her friend Jane. She is hoping that talking to her about all the ups and downs with Christian is going to help her process everything. She, starts off asking Jane how she's been, and she's like, me, I'm a workaholic, but, tell me about you. Christian's here. Obviously, that's a more pressing issue, right? She starts off, saying that in the beginning things were rough, but she does have strong feelings for him. She said after last night, she feels a little comfortable and more confident in the relationship. The friend's like, oh, what happened last night? She describes their nice little wine and virtual reality date that we saw on the last episode. Except we find out after what we saw, she was getting ready for bed. Christian was acting weird. He said he's not a guy that will ever make the first move. And she told him, she's the one who won't do that either. And he knows that, and it was awkward. Before I continue, this man is so adamant that he doesn't make the first move, but he is completely comfortable going up to two 21-year-old girls on a plane to chat them up, or a table full of women at the bar to talk to them. And you're telling me he's that uncomfortable with trying to make a first move, especially when they've kissed. He's called her his girlfriend. He's told people this is his girlfriend. So that's it's not a complete open invitation to do these things, but it's a good indication that they'll be received well. Excuse me. So anyway, after that, he started kissing her cheek. They took things to the next level, meaning, they went all the way. She said it was really nice, romantic, passionate. It felt like making love. She felt like chemistry and attraction. Jane is asking her, if Christian was comfortable with the whole process. And she says, well, Cleo is the first trans person that Christian's been with. And she hasn't gotten all the surgeries that she would like to. And, that being said, she thought it would be awkward. But it wasn't. It was just a girl and a guy having a good time. And now she's just feeling super positive about it. It felt natural, like they could be a couple. Meanwhile, Christian's at home trying to figure out how to work a stove. The producer's like, so things were a little awkward when we left last night. He's like, yeah, things were kind of at an impasse. But he bit the bullet and made the first move anyways. And it was a good night. And then Rico Suave over here tries to crack an egg, and it just goes all over the counter. Not one drop of egg white went into the bowl. Nothing. Like, he literally cracked it on the counter. I've never seen such things. He says, he went for it, kissed her, and yeah, they hooked up. He asked him, did you go all the way? And he's like, no. But they hit a couple bases. And I'm thinking, this slimy, no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing mofo. How dare he just lie like that? I mean, he looked hungover. And I'm guessing that once this gets back to his family, that he actually had sex with her. he's going to say he was wine drunk and she pressured him to make the first move and he felt like he had to, or something stupid and generic like that. But how dare he? So, he says, they got a double, but no home run because they're working their way up to that. And I'm just like, these analogies are bullshit. I can't even with this. And we go back to the girls. Jane is like, well, why was it so awkward at first? And Cleo doesn't really know. She's like, maybe, they were in their heads. Maybe he was trying to learn her boundaries. She still doesn't really get it. Even the friend can't believe that Christian says he doesn't make the first move based on just the stories Cleo has told her about Christian. She thinks, he had concerns that she's trans, and that's not a good thing. Because Cleo deserves to be validated and desired by her partner. She hopes he's being honest, and her friend tells her to be careful, look for actions. I want to know, on the off chance that anybody watching this has went on a date or knows someone who went on a date or hooked up with this man Christian, please let us know about all the times that he made the first move. So I would love to hear it because he is so full of crap. So, later, Cleo's outside. It's dark. She's on the sidewalk. She's meeting back up with Jane. Jane, she comes up, says, babe, I'm sorry. Cleo thanks her for hugging. Thanks her for coming. And they hug. And she's like, don't feel bad. You needed me. She says she's not okay. She feels like she's been deluded. And what was she even thinking? She feels stupid. And at this point, I just want to cry. Like, no matter how many episodes ahead we could see this coming, it is so hard to see this, especially after she went to tea and was talking about this wonderful experience that she had with this man. So she asked Jane to go back with her to the Airbnb. She tells her, her and Christian had a fight. She lost all trust in him. Yesterday they had a nice moment. She thought things were going to be better. Now she doesn't understand what's going on or who this guy is. Jane asks what happens. Our girl, she does the right thing. She takes a deep breath. It's what we got to do in these moments. She tells her that Christian and her had been intimate for the first time. She thought it was special. After that, they talked about how much they cared for each other. And they decided to be transparent about the fact that they had sex. At some point today, he messaged her, and I think she said it was right before she was off to a lecture after tea. And he was texting her, and she couldn't even go into the lecture because she was so upset. He messaged her. He asked her if she told people that they were intimate. She's like, of course I did. Have you not? And he says no. He didn't really talk about it to the cameras. I love how she just talks about how they're on this show like it's normal. That's usually we don't hear that, like these behind the scenes things. But that he said they just got to second base. So she's agitated. He was vague. He was not transparent at all. She felt they had this magical moment and she let herself be vulnerable. And for him to go and lie about their intimacy today is just confusing and upsetting for her. She also feels manipulated. So she called him. They talked. He said they shouldn't talk about it to protect her. Because it's no one's business. And the friend's like, it's to protect himself. And that's what Cleo was feeling. I can't believe. It's to protect you. Yeah, I didn't tell you I was cheating to protect you. I didn't tell you I have, 7 felonies to protect you. Whatever it is. Ugh. Sickening. So, she called him. They talked. He said, yeah, they shouldn't talk about it. She tells him, he's been gaslighting her, which A lot of people use this term improperly. So I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can because anyway, I've been gaslit my entire life by my father, by other men. So basically, it would be a situation where, like, I pull up, my boyfriend's outside hugging a girl, right? I see that. I get upset. And then he spends the rest of the time convincing me I didn't see him hug her. Like, he was helping her in the car. He opened the door. He was doing this, whatever it was. Someone tells you, like, you can clearly see something with your own eyes. You clearly heard someone tell you something. And then they completely deny that any of that happened. And then they make you feel like you're crazy that you even thought that. And then after years of abuse like this, you tend to question your own memory, your own decision making. It's really hard. So basically, gaslighting is distorting someone's perception of reality and what they saw happen and what they felt happen. And that could be very much what he's doing here. I would have to see more of that and, like, what he had said to her to, like, form my personal opinion about it. But at least she calls him out on this. Cleo feels that he doesn't want people or his family to know he has been intimate with a trans woman because he's afraid of the opinions, just like the kissing at the airport thing. She's exactly right. For someone who is autistic and doesn't feel they connect to people or social cues, she understands what he's feeling and doing a lot better than he probably does. She sees it for what it is. And I'm glad that she would rather be alone, from what she says, than be like someone's dirty little secret. And I think a lot of people are very desperate for love and affection that they don't mind being treated that way. So I'm very proud of her. She's saying if he's vague, he doesn't have to, face the backlash. She's, like I said, not interested in being a secret lover. She says, there's been a few times where Christians' insecurities about what other people think about him being with her have affected their relationship. And she just thought they were past that. She's disappointed, she's sad, she's frustrated. And the friends, like, it sounds like he doesn't take your emotions into account and just does what he wants. Like, where has this lady been the whole time? She needs to, tag along sometimes because that's exactly what's happening. She asked if she thinks that he genuinely cares about her. And she said up until yesterday she did. Like, she had doubts that he cared, but he, got on a plane and flew to London to see her. So that was proof enough that he cared. I understand the gesture, but that's not all the proof you need. But with what he's doing now, she has no trust in him. Unfortunately, her heart is still there. She still loves him and wants to give him a chance. She's real nervous about confronting him because he needs to be able to separate what people think about them from his own feelings and opinions about them. And if not, this isn't going to work out. And again, I'm just really impressed by her and how self-aware she is, how aware she is of other people, how she understands behavior that, is unacceptable. And she's not going to let him treat her that way. I'm very nervous to see this conversation. I am glad that the friend's going to be there. I know some people would think it isn't needed, but it's like an emotional support. I have my emotional support people. Some people have Cleo has emotional support pets. Like, I don't think she could do this confrontation without her friend's support there. So I'm all for that because she knows this person way better than she knows Christian. And Christian is being like typical Minnesota F-boy, and I just can't stand him. Like, how many men have to treat women like this before we all just stop dating men? that won't happen. But I've seen this behavior so many times, and it's not fair to anybody to feel used. And he knew full well what he was getting into. She's never lied to him. She never sugarcoated nothing. She's one of the only people that he went to the other country and they weren't like, wow, I haven't told my family about them in 7 years. Or, geez, I'm hiding this big secret. Or, dang, I live with my ex-boyfriend. Like, she was upfront the whole time about her and all of her issues. And just none of this was fair. He should have, not went when he decided he couldn't kiss her publicly. Because she does deserve to be loved publicly and fully, just like the rest of us. So, sorry if I got a little off topic there. Sometimes this guy, I think I've dated like way too many men like him, and I didn't think that it was like a Minnesota thing, but his behavior, like with the drinking and just the excuses and the like non-committal attitude is something I see a lot around here. And that's probably why I don't date somebody that is from here. So, enough with that. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end. If you did, don't forget to like and comment. And if you're not subscribed yet, please do that. I plan on getting the next 2 episodes of The Other Way done this week before Sunday. And then I'll be pretty caught up. I'm excited for that. Thank you guys for sticking it out with me. And I will definitely see you soon. Thank you guys. Don't forget to take deep breaths. I'm going to go ahead and do that now that I just talked about all these, especially that last one. Whew. Yes. Deep breaths. Buy yourself something nice. Take yourself to the movies. Get some flowers. Whatever makes you happy. And don't forget to have a good day. So, bye.